We really are a city with incredible potential, a lot of growth coming. As long as we stay united and working together, we are going to accomplish remarkable, remarkable things. And I'm really honored to be the mayor of this beautiful city.
All right, we are here, you guys, with another special episode. It just feels like it's getting more and more special every single time.
Every time.
Yeah, you feel the same way, right?
Dude, I'm pumped, man, about today.
I wanted to change up the intro. Usually I say it's a special, but they are special. I feel like we got to keep it that way, right?
For real.
So today we are in our own backyard. We've got the Mayor of Vaughan, Stephen Del Duca. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mayor.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Do you ever laugh inside when someone says Mr. Mayor? Because that's not actually your last name. You're like,
I know the one that gets me is Your Worship, when they call me Your Worship, which is technically my title.
Yeah.
Along with Mayor. That one always throws me for a bit, especially when it's someone I know.
I can imagine.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Your Worship. I'm like, I try to get my daughters at home to call me Your Worship. but if they do it, it's normally sarcasm with their eyes rolling.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
Being a husband now and a father myself, I know when to ask Sarah something and when to not. And I feel like if I ever went to Sarah and said, call me Your Worship, I feel like I get up back.
You'd wake up not knowing what happened.
Yeah. I just wake up remembering Your Worship. So how you doing? How's it?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm doing great. 7 months into the job here in a really busy city and a growing city.
Yes.
Somewhere I've lived for close to 4 decades now with my family. It's great. It is a great city. We have a lot on the go, and I'm really enjoying being mayor.
I remember, do you remember when on St. Clair, our parents live on St. Clair?
Right.
Do you remember when we met the mayor?
No.
I think you were maybe, is it a counselor at the time?
At the time, it was probably a cabinet minister. I was the member of provincial parliament here.
Yeah.
And then I served in 2 different cabinet positions at the provincial government. So it depends on the year that we met.
Oh, it was years ago.
Yeah.
I still lived at home. It was a long time ago. We were little kids. I remember you put the lawn signs. You were door knocking and campaigning.
You know what? I think I was campaigning with Christina Martins because she was, if you live near St. Clair,
Possibly.
She was running for us in the riding of Davenport. So that would have been 2014. Yeah, so like 9 years ago.
Yeah, almost 10
9 years
years
ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah.
So that was my
too
first
funny.
interaction.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sounds good.
Hope I put the sign in straight.
So talk to us about like how you got started. Were you always like a career politician? Did you know you wanted to be a politician growing up? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I got involved in politics through a family member. One of my cousins, when I was very young, I was about 14, going on 15. I was invited to a meeting just to help out. I mean, the joke I used to tell when I was talking about this, giving speeches, I would say, so there I was at my grandparents' house, and my cousin came up and he asked my parents and me, hey, do you want to come to this meeting in a few weeks? And when I walked in, it was a nomination meeting. The federal Liberal Party was choosing a candidate.
Okay.
This is 1988, so it's, quite some time ago. And when I walked into the room, the media lights and thousands of people and all this great electricity, but I realized right away that what my cousin was really looking for was unskilled labor, because he wanted me and a bunch of other young guys to put out tables and chairs and put up signs and do all the stuff that volunteers do. And that was my entry officially to politics. And from there, my interest and my addiction just kind of grew from there.
I've been to one of those conventions.
Right.
I've been to one of those conventions in hopes that I would, take a career in politics.
Okay.
Actually, when in elementary school, when you do that test that kind of then spits out like a career that you should be.
Okay.
It's a politician, number
Oh
one.
my goodness.
Sort of, yeah. Yeah. I was always though fascinated at a young age with numbers and finance and real estate. So I chose, I'm very happy with what I'm doing, but I was always intrigued by it. And the electricity, that was the perfect word to describe those events, right?
Yeah.
There's a good feeling in the air.
Yeah. So I was young. I went to that meeting and then I stayed involved, and here we are 36 years later and I'm still doing it.
Nice.
And this new job is a lot of fun, like I said.
I was just going to ask you, did you always have an ambition to be the mayor of Vaughan, or
no?
Was it something you just kind of thought about in the more recent years?
No, I'd made the decision back in 2012 to run provincially here, and I was able to win the first election. So for 6 years, I served as the MPP for Vaughan, and for 4 of those 6 years, I was first the Minister of Transportation, then the Minister of Economic Development, and then I ran for and became Ontario Liberal Party leader. Yep. So I was kind of on that, I'll say, trajectory, or that part of my journey. I really enjoyed provincial politics, ran to be Premier in June of 2022, didn't work out quite the way that I was hoping it would. And then this opportunity presented itself right around the same time that I lost provincially, because my good friend, our former mayor, Maurizio Bevilacqua, had announced he was going to retire, which I think shocked all of us, me included. There was an opening, there was a window to do it. I took some time last summer to make the decision. It wasn't an easy decision, but I do love the city and I do love public service. And so I ultimately chose to run, and really grateful to people of Vaughan for giving me this chance.
Amazing. Yeah. And the unique thing is also that Vaughan is home for you, right?
It is. Yeah.
How long have you guys been living here?
We moved here in '86, so I guess this is the 37th year. And this area, where we are right, I live in Woodbridge, my wife and I and our 2 young daughters. And so this general area of Vaughan is where I spend a lot of my time. So I know the whole area, I know the whole city well, but in particular, I know this part well. We first lived in Kleinburg.
Yes.
When my family moved up here from Etobicoke back in the mid-'80s. And then my wife and I, once we got married, decided we would buy a place in Woodbridge, and here we are.
It's amazing. There's a lot I want to unpack about that, but I got to ask you, for the 2022 provincial election.
Yeah.
What was it like, number one, being the Liberal Party leader? And number two, I got to ask, you were going against Doug Ford. What was that like? What was that dynamic like?
I won the party leadership on Saturday, March 7th, 2020. So just think about that for a quick moment. It was the last large gathering. We had about 2,500 people at the International Center by the airport. So it was the last large gathering before the first lockdown. And I can remember at the convention, people talking a little bit about this scary virus coming out of, another part of the world. But it really hadn't kind of seized the moment. I won the leadership on the Saturday. On the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week, I went back on tour. I'd been running for leader for about a year. I'd been all over Ontario. And I went back to Windsor, Ottawa, Thunder Bay on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. When I flew home from Thunder Bay on Wednesday night, we were already hearing that some pretty serious decisions were coming down.
Okay.
And then the Thursday night, my older daughter was having her confirmation mass at a local church here in Woodbridge. And it's normally like a full-on ceremony for your confirmation. But when we got to the church, the priest said to all of us, we're just going to do the blessing for the confirmation. We don't want people to stay congregated together. That was the Thursday. So that would have been whatever day it was. I'm forgetting now. The Thursday.
12th or 13th.
Yeah. And then, of course, right before St. Patrick's Day, that's when the government of Ontario announced the first lockdown. Schools would stay out for an extra week of March break until everybody could see stuff. And, we all thought, well, this is unfortunate, but it's not going to last too long. I mean, I think, it was so disruptive for so many of us and so unprecedented. I don't think any one of us in that first lockdown thought, wow, this is going to be 2 years, 2 years plus really of having to go through all these twists and turns. So what I tell people is you win the leadership and, again, having been involved in politics since I was a kid, you think, well, you're going to hit the ground running. You're going to get out there and introduce yourself to the rest of Ontario. You're going to rebuild the party because we had lost so badly in 2018. You're going to clear out the $10 million debt. You're going to find all the great candidates. But that's a very in-person thing. You've got to be in the community.
Yes.
So when you factor that I was basically relegated to my living room, like so many of us were in that first lockdown, and I was doing everything through a computer screen, politics isn't easy to do through a computer screen. You can't shake a hand or, high five or kiss a baby, as the old saying goes. You can't do any of that. Yeah, sure. And then you factor in that moment when people were so scared, whether it's here in Ontario or it was federally or at a local level, people really only wanted to hear from the heads of government. Mm-hmm. They didn't care what an opposition party leader had to say. They just wanted to know whether it was Trudeau or Ford or Bevilacqua or in Toronto, Tory. What's the head of government telling us about how we can stay safe? So it became very hard as an opposition party leader to get a message to break through because opposition leaders by definition need to be somewhat critical of the government. Well, in that first lockdown, who the hell wanted to listen to someone who'd be attacking? Yeah. Everybody just wanted people to work together. So the journey, those couple of years, was really tough. And then facing off directly against Premier Ford. And by the way, since becoming mayor, I've established a really great relationship with the premier and the provincial government, which I think is critically important for Vaughan, to deliver the things that we need. There has to be a partnership there, and there is, which is good. But I enjoyed the campaign. I really did. The debate, I enjoyed, squaring off head to head against all the other leaders. I mean, all that to me was fun. I just didn't like the result, right? So election night wasn't what I'd hoped for. Yeah. But it was a fascinating journey.
On that point, I just wanted to ask, looking back now, obviously after COVID is done, and you saw everything that happened during those 2 years, are you kind of relieved that you didn't win the, you know what I mean, become the premier at that time? No. You weren't, because obviously Doug Ford had to go through certain things that not every premier goes through during a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you look back and say, wow, I kind of dodged a bullet there? Or
no, because I was running in 2022 to be premier, right? And so Doug was
towards the end of it.
Doug Ford was already premier. But having said that, I will say, one of the reasons I got involved in politics at the age of 14 is because, I'll admit this, I was a bit of a nerd. I'm still a bit of a nerd, and I love history, and I love the history of politics, and reading. In my spare time, I read political biographies of, American presidents, other world leaders, Canadian prime ministers. And I think while I don't, you don't relish having to deal with something like a crisis, I think, speaking as a bit of a student of history and looking at great leaders and how they've confronted pretty big challenges, world wars, global pandemics, depressions, whatever the particular challenge is, I think there is a part of me, and I don't think I'm alone in this regard, that you kind of, relish is the wrong word, but
that's what I was thinking.
But you kind of embrace the idea that, through that crisis, that's when real leadership is required. That's when people really need that kind of stewardship. And so you want to rise to the occasion. No, I don't feel like I dodged a bullet. Look, at the end of the day, I'm a really big believer you can't go backwards in life. You can only, one foot in front of the other, and you can only keep going forward. I didn't expect the result last June to be exactly what it was. It ended up being what it was. A few weeks later, another opportunity, another door opened. And I feel, again, because I feel so passionate about serving the public and serving this community, I think it was a natural step for me to take on this challenge. But you never know what the future holds, right? Sense. In life, yeah. And
just on the nerd conversation, Danny. So, maybe people think I'm cool now, but I was totally a nerd. Okay,
So the good news is no one thinks I'm cool now. So it's all good. It's all good.
But here's what they used to say about nerds. They used to say that be nice to them because you might work for them one day.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But I share that sentiment with you regarding that whole crisis because at the end of the day, diamonds are created with immense pressure.
Sure, that's right.
And not that someone looks forward to a crisis, but it's not about the crisis itself. It's about who you become and then how you come out at the other side of it, right?
Right.
So, okay, that's great. But I got to ask now, is there ambitions to now, after this role that you're in, whenever it is, 5, 10, however long you want to be in this role, are there ambitions to now seek a different position?
Well, no, because I was there. I had the chance. I did serve as leader. I did serve in 2 senior cabinet positions. I did spend time as the MPP. So I'm not a real big believer in sort of looking too far ahead, too far down the path about what might come. I think it's going to be really hard for me to ever completely separate myself from forms of public service, but I'm really honored to have the current responsibility that I have as mayor of our city. There's a lot of big things that are happening right now, and I think we, as a council, we can make some really, positive things happen for the community. So I'm very focused on this. I also jokingly tell people that I'm in my post-partisan life. I'll tell you, one of the most liberating things about being mayor is that you're not kind of bound by one particular party ideology, political party ideology. And yeah, being a liberal is like, since I was a kid, still am a liberal. Those are the values that matter to me, but being stuck within the confines very rigidly of one particular party, which I was for so many years, it is a bit refreshing and liberating to now say, well, I'm at this point in my career and this point in my life when it's about my values and my judgment. And I'll be judged by the people in 2026 if I run again, based on how did you do your job, as opposed to what was your rigid party ideology. So I'm enjoying this aspect. This post-partisan part of my life is actually quite fun.
But you're a competitive guy.
A little bit, yeah.
I can tell. Yeah. Well, you're a
It
competitive.
runs in my family.
Yes.
We're all very competitive.
I think you have to be, right?
Yeah.
If you're in this space, even in business, but I think in life, like
I think in general, yeah.
that competitiveness gets you going. Like I actually
does.
try to create some competitiveness within here just
Right.
to motivate everybody, right?
Yeah.
So just push people to do better, work harder, and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, the question becomes, what are you competing against for me now at this point, in my life? And am I competing for a different role, or am I competing to deliver more for Vaughan? And I think I feel very comfortable in that latter space, So the competition is, there are 444 municipalities across Ontario. They're all great. They're all wonderful. But I think Vaughan is already the best, and I just want to make it better. And that's the competitiveness that I feel.
Yeah.
So when dealing with the federal government or the provincial government, I want to bring more good things to Vaughan. So I feel like I compete against, let's say, Markham or Toronto or Brampton.
That's cool.
And I say that respectfully of those municipalities, and their mayors are great, great people. But I'm competing for Vaughan. And so that's how I'm channeling that competitive spirit at this point in my career.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it's an internal competition.
Yeah.
You're saying like, I want to be the best I can be for my city in the role that I've been given.
That's correct. Yeah.
Can you, sorry,
It's like,
can you talk to us a little bit about like what it's like in the day of, being in the mayor's shoes? Like walk us through like some challenges that you face, and just how does your day look?
And we saw that you did a competition recently. Was
Yesterday.
it a competition, or was it like a?
It was a competition. And yesterday, Allegra Spagnola was our mayor for a day, the first ever Vaughan mayor for a day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she's a grade 8 student at a Catholic elementary school here in Woodbridge, and she was great. She spent the entire day with us yesterday, came to council, got to speak in front of council and those who are in the public gallery, and the days are busy. Everyone's asking me, how does it compare to provincial? How does it compare to what you've done? Every other political role I've had has been busy. I would say that the pace at the municipal or at the mayor's level is, it's a quicker pace, and there's far more variety
Okay.
about what you have to do in the course of a day. So you get invited, depends on the day, it could be a couple of business openings, it could be a tour of a business, it could be an interview, it could be a council meeting, a committee meeting. And then because right now within York Region, we're all part of a 2-tier governance structure. We have the city of Vaughan, but we also have York Region and Newmarket. Myself and 4 members of Vaughan Council are members of York Regional Council, so we have those meetings. And again, committee of the whole and council. And by virtue of our size, Vaughan is part of something known as the Big City Mayor's Caucus. It's every municipality in Ontario that's larger than 100,000 people. So they meet fairly regularly. There's the talking to the other levels of government, dealing with constituency concerns. People aren't happy about how the snow was shoveled or the garbage was picked up or not. It's all coming at you all the time. So it is, I would say, a quick and sometimes frantic pace, but it's nice to be only local.
Okay.
So in the old job, when I was describing a moment ago, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Windsor, Ottawa, Thunder Bay. Now it's, okay, fine, Kleinburg, Maple, Thornhill, Concord, Woodbridge. So even on the busiest days, I'm home most nights in 10, 15 minutes, right?
That's good. Yeah.
Which is nice.
For sure.
My parents I can drop in to see. To take my daughters to school. Like this morning, I dropped my daughters.
That's nice.
My older daughter has an exam, so I dropped her at school, and then I took our younger daughter to school. So it's busy, and it's some days it feels like it's a frantic busyness, but it's close to home, and that's important to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what are some of the big things that are coming down the pipeline for the city of Vaughan?
Well, when I ran for mayor last year, the centerpiece of what I ran on, if I can put it that way, my platform was traffic and traffic gridlock. And 3.5 years that I served as Ontario's Minister of Transportation, I think I bring a unique set of skills. But the challenge is, it's grown and gotten worse here in the city because of our growth. I can think back to the intersection that we are sitting right beside right now. When I first moved here, it was already busy, but it wasn't busy like it is today. So we've got the subway not too far away. We've got the BRT, but obviously we have a lot of growth. Like this one part of Vaughan is, slated to go through, people use the word transformational an awful lot these days. But when you think about how many people live and work in this part of Woodbridge today versus what it's going to look like in 20 years, it will feel like an entire new town that will grow up around this area. Our Vaughan Metropolitan Center, not too far away. Keelan Highway 7, not too far away from that, where we expect that there will be a GO station built over the next few years. So there's so much growth coming. And frankly, our transportation network, despite the fact that we have the bus rapid transit way, despite the fact that we're the only 905 community with a subway, our transportation network hasn't really kept up. So I tell people that we are the largest city in Ontario that has a number of major east-west routes that don't connect all the way through. So Langstaff doesn't connect over the CN yard, the McMillan yard.
Yeah.
Teston, Kirby, they don't connect east-west. So that puts enormous pressure on Highway 7, on Rutherford, on Major Mac. And so without more of those east-west outlets being opened up, we're never going to get relief on the other roads. So we've started a process. I announced a 10-year, 9-point plan to relieve traffic congestion. Part of it's those east-west connections. Part of it's more transit coming to the city.
Okay.
We're making some progress. We're going to have more announcements coming later this year that I'm excited about. So that's been my focus up until this point, but there's lots of other things that are happening too, including signing on to the province's housing pledge, 42,000 units of housing approved here in Vaughan over the next 10 years. So there's a lot going on.
That's big.
Awesome, man.
And on that topic, first of all, I don't have any problems with the way my garbage is picked up or my snow shovel. So you don't have any issues there. But on that topic of housing, there's been a lot of I don't want to use the word backlash, but there's been, opposing sides to some of the plans that the provincial government has put in place.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of the mayors from different municipalities just saying, slow down, pump the brakes for a second. Let's figure out how this is going to work and maybe have some dialogue. I don't want to, ask you what do you think about it? But,
you can.
But I do want to ask you what you think about it.
No problem.
I mean, we're committed now for the city of Vaughan to 42,000 homes over the next 10 years. So how did we arrive at that number?
Well, it was a target given to us by Queen's Park.
Okay.
And what they did this for there's 29 municipalities that are targeted for growth over the next decade. We all got a number, and then they basically asked us to sign on to the housing pledge. Okay. So our staff and our council worked together to come up with are we comfortable signing on to the pledge? And I think, look, I completely understand members of council here locally, or even other mayors and other municipalities who are a bit nervous about how much growth is now scheduled to come here to Vaughan and to some of the other communities we're talking about. But, and again, remember, I lived here a long time. And so when residents will come to me, as they do, I was in the Baskin Robbins across the street with my 2 daughters a few weeks ago, and 2 residents who I've known for years came up to me, and they've lived in this area of Woodbridge for a long time, about the same length of time as my family. And they came to me to complain about all the growth that's coming along Highway 7. And I get it, because it's jarring, right? The one woman in particular said to me, when we first moved here, we used to buy all of our groceries at Peary's. And for those who don't know, well, I'm going to tell you right now. So right at the corner of Highway 7 and Ansley Grove, on the northwest corner. So where the Wendy's and the Dairy Queen and the other plaza, that was a little area, and there was a little, almost like a fruit and vegetable kind of stand operation there called Peary's. There was no Fortinos. There was nothing else in that neighborhood. And so over the years, it's grown. And now when you think about just that one section of Highway 7, we all know this. You see the signs as you drive along it. There are applications in for condo towers, and there's more coming like that. So for longtime residents, it's jarring to see that much change. But what I tell my council colleagues, and I tell people in the community, listen, my daughters are 15 and 12. And I have no idea what lies ahead for them. but I really would feel like we collectively failed if we didn't at least give them and their generation the option to be able to afford a home of some kind relatively close to where they grew up. It doesn't have to be a particular kind of home. It doesn't have to be a mansion. It doesn't even have to be right in Woodbridge. But I don't think it's fulfilling what I believe is part of the Canadian dream to say to my daughters, you've got to go 2-3 hours away from the GTA to be able to afford something. Yeah. So, when you look at the immigration targets, which, by the way, we exceeded last year as a country. We didn't just hit them. We actually went over. When you see that Canada's population just a few weeks ago went up over the 40 million mark, when you see how many people are coming to Ontario, combined with our young people who will want to hopefully start their lives and their careers soon, to defend the status quo, to me, it feels like a real gut punch to the next generation. And I don't think that's right. My wife and I were starting out. We had a little bit of help, but not too much. We were able to make the investment to buy a home. Ironically, we bought the house we're in now back in 2008. You'll appreciate this given the line of work that you're in. I thought we overpaid for the house back in 2008. I look at it now and I think, oh my God, why didn't we find a way to buy 2 or 3 others at that price, right?
Sure.
So I feel like I get the growth concerns. I get how much it can be tough for people who've lived here for a long time, but surely it's not good enough to just say no to everything. We don't want the growth and sort of, then condemn the next generation to really, really unpalatable housing choices. That doesn't feel right to me. So there is a balance. We've got to strike the balance, but it can't just be covering our eyes and saying no to everything. That's not right.
Right. And I feel like a lot of the things that a lot of people were protesting or contesting, especially in the line of work we're in, where we sit down with a lot of builders and speak with a lot of developers.
Sure.
Yes, they're in it to make a profit, but there are a lot of good builders out there that say, no, we want to give back. We want to do this. We want to do that. Of course, we're going to make money. Anyone in business wants to make money.
Yes.
But as you mentioned, the balance, right? You're not going to flood the streets with condominiums and these micro units that, it's not even going to be livable, even if it's there.
Yeah.
There's a balance that you have to strike.
Yeah. And that is one of the things that I will, give our council a lot of credit and our staff. We do push, developers, builders that come in with applications. Yeah, we know you need those smaller kind of bachelor units, but show us the 2 bedrooms. Where it's appropriate, show us the 3 bedrooms, right? So, families, whether they're looking to live closer to where they work, or they're new to the country or new to the area, or they're seniors who are looking to downsize, show us a decent mix of housing supply. And I think that's also part of a healthy housing market. And to your point, we are blessed here to have a lot of builders and developers who are sophisticated, who do want to produce a good product, and they are willing to work with us. So to me, that's a good sign about where we are here in Vaughan.
Yeah. Things are tough, as they are right now with interest rates and qualifying for mortgages. So we definitely feel like the more supply, the better, especially, considering, a lot of this next generation is coming up now, starting to get jobs and looking to move out and, get a place of their own. And the more supply is definitely going to help try to at least keep up with that demand with the amount of people coming into the country. So
for sure,
it's nice to hear that.
And sometimes when I'm out and about, I hear people say, well, why are so many people coming to the country, right? Well, first of all, it's a good sign when people around the world want to come here and they end up wanting to come to Ontario and staying in the GTA. But secondly, it's fundamentally important to our economy. Not to go too far into the weeds, but we have a labor supply challenge in Canada right now. It's not unique to Toronto or Vaughan or Ontario. And when you look at our birth rate, we're actually not, and this has been the case for a long time. We are a country based on an economy here in our country based on immigration. We aren't actually, I'll say it this way, naturally producing a large enough labor pool to support an economy. So bringing people in from other parts of the world that have talent, that have skills, finding a way to rapidly recognize those skills and credential them here so they can go to work is fundamentally important for our economy.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Huge.
It's huge. So actually on that topic now, we saw that there was this huge mindset shift during the pandemic with respects to a lot of Gen Zs, a lot of millennials saying, well, I want to work from home.
Right.
I only want to work from home. Some of them, I want to be a crypto trader. I want to be this. I want to be that. I want to hit the next big thing, right? But Are you guys seeing, like, from your perspective, are you guys seeing maybe a shift now the other way where there are people coming back to the labor market? Or because it seems like everywhere we turn, whether it's a restaurant, a bank, or anything, it's like they need help. They need.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the shift back,
You're not
actually.
seeing the shift.
No, and this is a question when through our economic development team, talking to the Chamber of Commerce and others. This is it is a big challenge, and it's not, whereas earlier in the pandemic or as we were coming out of it, I think it was hitting mostly tourism, hospitality, and some elements of, I'll say, construction. It's now pretty much across the board. It is fascinating to me because I to be blunt, I don't actually know where all the workers have gone. Like, I don't know what they're doing.
How are they getting
all of the
paid?
income
How are
support?
they making money?
Yeah, all of the income support programs that were needed during COVID have all stopped, understandably. So it is fascinating to me to, how many people are, I'll say, kind of piecing together a bunch of, side hustles or whatever the right term is. This is me proving exactly how uncool I am right now.
Oh, you're right.
But like how many people are piecing things together like that and doing okay with it, or at least doing okay enough? I don't know. But it is a big problem. So again, that's one of the reasons why when the federal government and their provincial partners talk about bringing people into the country, that's why, because you still do need people who have the right skills, the right talent, the right education, training to be here to help supply that workforce. The other big transition we saw was the whole work, you mentioned it, the whole work from home. There are a lot of, I don't like working from home. I much prefer to be out and about or be at my office. My wife's run her own business from our home for the last 7 years. So for her, COVID wasn't a big difference, except the house got a lot louder with me and the girls and our 2 dogs were around the house the whole time. Yeah, exactly. She's like, what, the house used to be quiet. You were at work, you were at school, But I think that die is now cast. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way it was in 2019. You see it in areas like the financial district in Toronto, a lot of commercial towers not at full usage rates. I don't think that's ever really going to go back to where it was. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. There's going to be there are a lot of empty office space.
Yeah.
Maybe they get converted into residential.
Maybe. That's a big move though. That's hard.
I want to get your thoughts on foreign investment when it comes to foreign buyers purchasing properties, especially let's say in Vaughan, but leaving them vacant. And not necessarily.
Not a fan. I'm not a fan of that.
Neither are we.
Me neither. I can't stand it.
I'm not a fan because at the end of the day, if we are trying to collectively solve a supply issue, which I believe we are, to be doing anything to inadvertently restrict or choke off the supply is just a bad idea as far as I'm concerned. So on the one hand, we're all going through the pain of making decisions that upset our existing residents, like I was talking about a moment ago, to approve more dense applications, so mid-rise, high-rise, towns, whatever it is, and then to have people who are going to purchase and just sit. It's like, well, what are we going through the pain and anguish of delivering more product and supply for if a certain percentage will just sit there being unused? In fact, in my past life, I was a big fan of things like a vacant home tax and the rest of those mechanisms to try to make sure the supply was actually out into the market where people need to be able to access it.
Yeah. If you're going to be an investor, like our whole strategy in here is you buy and you hold, you provide rental housing.
Sure.
There needs to be,
which we need.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to leave it empty, like I've never thought of leaving my property empty. Like, first of all, I don't have the money to keep up with the payments.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Number 2, it's like, it just seems a little bit unjust.
Yeah.
In a way. I know it's a free market. I understand that. I like to consider myself more on the capitalistic side of things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I do have a moral compass that guides me. And it's like, well, people have to come first.
Yeah. Well, people have to come first. But, even if you're a huge believer in free enterprise and capitalism, and I am too, at the end of the day, one of the fundamental things you need to give people in a properly functioning capitalist society is access to shelter. If you don't have workers that can work, if you don't have people that can feel comfortable and can access an affordable, reasonable option for their basic shelter, then you've got a very dysfunctional system. You don't actually have a real democratic free market system. That's when it's just being torqued, in a very kind of, I'll say, perverse way, and we should be trying to avoid that.
Yeah. Yes. No, absolutely. So, couple last things.
No problem.
I saw on your social media that you like to cook.
I do. Yeah.
So what's like your favorite dish Danny wants to fire off some questions.
I have some rapid fires.
He has some rapid fire.
Okay.
quick rapid
Should I wait for the rapid fire or should I answer this one first?
You know what? You can answer that one first. Yeah, that's the first.
So I do like cooking. Everybody in my family enjoys the product of my cooking, but they don't like being near me when I'm cooking. And our home, I'm really strict. That's what they don't like.
Okay.
I'm a bit of a dictator in the kitchen when I'm cooking.
Control
because I believe in, for example, clean as you go. And I've tried to teach my daughters this, and it's just so much easier. There's nothing I hate more than going through hours of cooking and having so much, dirty pots. And so I clean as I go, but I'm also really, again, a bit of a dictator in the kitchen. So they all just run. They all just leave. They leave the area. Even our dogs go away. Yeah. I turn on some music. So look, I like cooking. I mean, my specialty dish is a homemade lasagna, but that's a real process. Like I put stuff on Instagram years ago showing my lasagna. Like I make the sauce the day before.
That's awesome.
Like it's a real
you gotta let us know next time you have that.
Yeah. Because normally it's around Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving is when I do the production for family gatherings. But I'll tell you a funny story. What I recently put on Instagram, which you may have seen, was this making focaccia.
Yeah, right? I saw that.
So I've never done that before, and I found a really easy recipe. And I was there on a weekend, and I thought, it's like 4 ingredients. It's so easy. Even I can't screw that up. So I tried it, and my daughters loved it, and my wife loved it. And I thought, hey, this is not too bad. So I made it the following weekend, put it on Instagram. Look, over the years, I have put so many purely political things on social media, and the general audience out there is like, whatever. Your education, Paul, I put a focaccia video out. I think I got the highest number of views. And I've had more people in the community come up to me randomly and say, hey, I saw your focaccia video. I'm like, my God.
People love focaccia.
They love focaccia. And I think they want to know politicians are real people too, right?
For sure.
We're not robots. So,
well, someone said it the other day before the rapid fire continues. They're like, it was about American politics.
Sure.
And they're like, you know how divisive it is now and stuff. It's quite entertaining sometimes to watch, but worrisome at the same time. They're like, do you ever see these politicians? Like, are they real? Like, once they get off camera, they get off still, where do they go, right? And I think that's so important what you're doing. Show that different side of you.
Well, I tell everybody as well, and people think I'm joking.
Yeah.
But every single Saturday morning, I do the grocery shopping at home, and I enjoy it. I always have. Every single Saturday morning at the Fortinos at Highway 7 in Whitmore, Ansley Grove, I'm there. So right as the store opens or within a few minutes. So the staff who work on the Saturday morning, they know. Sometimes the customers will come up and ask me about, again, garbage pickup or, snow cleaning or whatever it is. And I just go, it's early on a Saturday, in my track pants, my t-shirt, my hoodie, running shoes. Like it's not, and I think sometimes people are like, oh my God, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, my family has to eat too. It's not, we don't, so we are real people. We are real people.
And on that note, you want to just learn more about you.
Okay.
So have some quick rapid fire. What's your favorite homemade meal? Is it the lasagna?
Lasagna or a pasta fagioli. The pasta and beans are my 2 favorite. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
This one I think you've already answered, but Starbucks or Tim Hortons?
Product placement today. Starbucks.
Okay.
But it's not a fancy coffee. It's literally just a dark roast.
Roast?
2 shots of espresso in my dark roast. That's it's called a black eye. That's what I drink. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Soccer or hockey?
Oh my God. I love both. I really do love both.
Okay.
Both? I played and coached and both.
And movie theater or a round of golf?
Oh, this is killing me because I love both as well. I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
I would say round of golf is my personal preference, but I haven't golfed in a few years because I've been a little sidetracked with other things.
Sounds good.
Got your hands full a little bit. These last couple of minutes.
Favorite dessert?
Ice cream. I love ice cream.
Ice cream or gelato?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, ice cream.
And what do you listen to on your commute whenever you're driving around?
So actually, not right now because of, for a couple of reasons, but for a very long time, I've been a huge fan of Howard Stern. And most people, they look at me like, and because I tell people Howard Stern is, forget all the wacky stuff, forget all the crazy X-rated pieces. He still is, to me, one of the very best interviewers I've ever listened to. So when he's got like a celebrity or a politician or someone on, and he's doing a real interview, I still find them to be the most entertaining. So Stern normally, but I also have started listening to a podcast called Smartless,
Okay.
Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes. It's actually, they're all about my age. They're all, actors in the U.S. And Will Arnett's actually from Toronto, so it's kind of a nice tie-in. So those are the two things that I tend to listen to.
Okay, cool.
I stay away from the news.
That's good. That's
Likewise.
Awesome. We want to close off the show. You've been very generous with your time and being here in person with us. What's the last message you want to leave our audience with? And where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So, I try to be really accessible. My email address is stephen.delduca@vaughan.ca. Comes right to my phone. Try to respond as quickly as I can. 905-832-2281, extension 8888. I think it's 4 8s or it's 5
a lot of
8s.
eights.
I forget which. Again, my staff try to be really accessible as well. My final message is, we really are a city with incredible potential, a lot of growth coming. As long as we stay united and working together, we are going to accomplish remarkable, remarkable things. And I'm really honored to be the mayor of this beautiful city. And thank you for this opportunity today.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Guys, you heard it here first. We got the Mayor of Vaughan in the house. Please like and subscribe. I always forget to ask you guys. Please like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. And again, thank you for coming on, Mr. Mayor.
My pleasure.
Your worship, as they say.
Or Stephen. Just Stephen is fine too. It's all good.
And guys, until next time, we're out.
We're out.